Breaking news tonight in the hot car death investigation. We've finally gotten word from the side of the dead boy's mother. I've been begging Leanna Harris and her attorney, please come forward and give your side of the story. We want to hear it. Good evening. I'm Jane Velez Mitchell coming to you live. Just moments ago, we got this statement hot off the presses where Leanna's attorney sternly says he wants an end to his client being questioned like this.
You're over with. Nobody's going to bother you anymore.
We have no comments for you.
Do you support your husband still, or just tell me that?
We have no comments for you.
Leanna Harris's defense attorney, Lawrence Zimmerman, has more complaints in this just-released statement, scolding the news media for the, quote, constant speculation and innuendo. Reporters have delved into Leanna's upbringing, her employment, quizzed people for information about her marriage and her sex life, end quote. Clearly, he's suggesting his client, who has not been charged with anything, is being treated unfairly. But others suggest it's her husband, Ross Harris, and the cops investigating him who have put this family in the national spotlight. Cops say Ross Harris is the one sexting at least 6 women while their toddler was baking to death inside his sweltering SUV. The dad insists, it was an accident. Prosecutors say it was intentional. Ross's hearing put their whole life under a microscope. It was the detective who testified in open court, nationally televised, that Leanna said they were having intimacy problems. That's the phrase he used. Tonight, Leanna's attorney says his client has not had time to grieve, hasn't gone back to work, and we know she went to stay with her mother in Alabama. You've had a chance to study this just-released letter. What do you make of this attorney's statements? Interesting. Well, what do you make of that, Brian Claypool, defense attorney?
I don't buy that at all. Leanna Harris has no incentive to distance herself from her husband, Ross Harris. Hear me out. Here's why. Because Ross Harris, let me finish. Ross Harris is going to argue at trial. It was either an accident or he has some kind of diminished capacity, and that negates the criminal intent. Now, Leanna Harris, the best thing she could ever do is go to Alabama, sit tight. She doesn't have to barter any deals at all, because the only way she could be held liable is if she had an agreement with Ross to kill her son. So
now,
there's no incentive
you
for her
just
to
said
do
that there's no incentive for her to distance herself from her husband, who at the very least was intentional or not, according to cops, sexting 6 different women, including a teenager at the time that their son is roasting to death in a hot car in a torturous death. If there's anybody Leanna's attorney should be upset with, shouldn't it be the prosecutor and that cop who, in an open hearing that they knew was televised nationally and indeed internationally, repeatedly honed in on Leanna's behavior, even though her husband was the one in the defendant's chair?
She doesn't need.
Go ahead.
She has no. Jane, she has no voice. She's been pummeled for the last week or two by everybody internationally. She had to hire a lawyer to speak on her behalf to say, hey, leave my client alone. She needs to grieve. So that's why she hired a lawyer, number one. Number two, the reason she went to Alabama is not because she's distancing from her husband. It's because she truly wants to sit down in peace and quiet and grieve the loss of her son.